You're in charge of your own success. No one else is going to make it happen for you. You need to believe in yourself to make it happen.
In your experience, how pivotal is self-belief in shaping long-term success, not just in a career, but in life as a whole?
Belief comes with confidence. I think as soon as you're confident that you are competent to do something, that's when the belief comes. And if you don't believe in yourself, how can you expect others to? So, I put into the real estate space is if I can't portray to the vendors that I am there and I believe in myself that I am actually going to get the best possible price, then how are they going to believe in me over all the competition? And then coming from the eastern suburbs, which is one of the most competitive markets, that really comes into it. So if I'm second guessing, if I go, agent from X agency is going to do a much better job than me, then why are they going to give it to me? So I think once I back myself and I have belief around my tools and my toolkit, and that's what I've worked very, very hard to achieve over the years, there is no doubt I believe in my craft. And I can portray that to clients and vendors, and I know that they can see the belief I have in myself to make sure that they're going to get the best outcome for one of the biggest assets. No matter what I've done in life, I've always given it 100%. And I hate disappointing people. It starts off right back in school when I was, all through primary school and high school, where I hated getting in trouble. I hated disappointing teachers. I hated handing in homework that didn't come in time. And then coming through the workspace, I made sure I did everything 100%. Where, I first moved to Sydney, I started working at Hoyt's East Gardens. Within 2 weeks, I became supervisor. Within 2 weeks, I became manager. Even if I stayed at scooping popcorn, I would have been the best popcorn scooper there possibly is. So I think it comes with, just making sure no matter what you're doing, someone is always watching, and no matter who you meet, you've got to make sure you give them an absolute 100%.
Can you take me back to the moment you first had to back yourself, before there was any real evidence that you could do it? What made you choose belief over doubt in that moment?
The first time I had to back myself was when I first moved to Sydney. It's one of those cases that you get thrown into the deep end and you're not afraid. And you only get afraid by having a few knocks over time. And I remember when I first came to Sydney and I started in the real estate space, nothing worried me. I was knocking on waterfronts. I was knocking on, $100 million houses and just thinking because I believed in my boss, I had the ability and just because I had a good smile, they're going to give me the biggest asset to sell. I think it came from probably not having the information. And I think sometimes, especially in the real estate space, sometimes you can fluke a deal. You run across these opportunities and sometimes you can get in your own head and you think too much, and that's where you lose the belief. So I'll probably say when I first moved to Sydney for the first time, I knew I was going to make something of myself. I didn't know what it was. I originally moved here for acting, realized that I didn't have the enjoyment for acting. I hurt my back through dancing and I went into the acting space because that's sort of the natural transition, but didn't have that same love for it. So then I fell into the real estate space and I knew that if I was teamed up with the right person, I believed in my approach and I believed in my commitment to what I do, that I would, potentially get there if I just stuck to the job.
How do you build belief on the days when results, confidence, or motivation just aren't there?
Yeah, so this is very easy for me to answer, definitely in the real estate space, because sometimes you go, yeah, I can fluke it, or sometimes there's a little bit of that imposter syndrome does sneak in, and I always think if you have the right routine, know if you do the work, then the belief is going to come. So, for example, if the day before you started your career, you're getting hammered on the phones, you're getting rejection, and then you want to come to the office, you want to start on a good note. Well, call some people that that adore you, that are your biggest fans, because they're the easier calls. Well, that builds your confidence, that builds the motivation. That's when you get a little tip off. The neighbor might be selling. That's what I used to do at the very start of my career, and I do it now. Like if I just say I've got a slow period, well, I call my biggest fans, have a chat with them, they give me tip-offs, and then I build momentum again. Because as soon as you start getting the momentum, that's when your belief builds back up, and it's about the discipline in the tasks you got to do to get there. So I know it's all about routine and doing the activity that will build that momentum and get that belief back. I don't think you fail, I think you just learn. For example, if I lose a listing, it's all about what I can learn from that. What could I have done better? What did the person that won that listing do that I didn't do? People always have the easy way out and say, oh, they had the relationship. Well, you can overcome relationships if you did something different or they liked that person. The truth is, I think there's always learnings that can be done. The truth is, especially in the real estate space, is that person was just better in that moment over you, and that person thought that they were going to achieve the highest price.
What's the hardest challenge you've ever had to push through? And how did that experience reshape the belief of what you're capable of?
I remember I was probably 2 years in with Gav, right? And so I started working with Gavin Rubenstein. All day, every day, I was like an animal on the phones, right? You know, it was probably at quitting point where you're making $40,000 a year, you're working 6 or 7 days a week. You know, it's a really hard moment. Like, you know, am I good enough? You know, I talked about the start coming into the eastern suburbs and not being knocked around and having that belief like I'm going to do this. But then the eastern suburbs, it knocks you, right? You're not part of the community. You don't know their school friends. You know, it does knock you around, and especially with so much wealth in the area. And I think how you overcome that is probably having a belief system around you and people that support you that are around you. So I had amazing mentors that believed in me and they pushed me and they said, just hold on, keep going. Gav was really good. He said, mate, just keep going. You're doing the activity. He heard the hunger on me on the phone. Like I was making more calls than anyone in the office. I was doing like 50 connections a day. I sounded like he used to make a saying, like I used to come to the office at 6:30 and I was still going. And he goes, mate, you need to go home. You sound like a whipped horse because the energy was gone. But that was the driver that I had to push through those moments. If I want something, I'll go after it and make it happen. Like I've got a big goal of mine at the moment and everything in my power is I'm going to achieve it. And it's never been so clear for me. It's almost like I had a goal when I was starting off and then as you grow, your goals just get stronger and stronger and stronger. And the light at the end of the tunnel, although you get closer to it, it also gets further away at the same time because your goals just get bigger and bigger. I am very persistent. It's also, I think that's how you get places.
Do you have a deeper purpose that drives you? And how does that shape the way you show up, train, and perform every single day?
I guess it's a similar answer like I had before in terms of that light keeps moving at the end of the tunnel. I like to make sure I'm the best person I possibly can be, the best leader, the best father, which is new for me. I always want to beat myself. I always want to do things better, more systemized. You know, I'm constantly talking to Gav about making sure that we have the right technology in the office. I don't want to be stuck in the way of, you know, we've done it this way because we've always done it this way. I just want to make it, even when I train, it's like, as I'm getting older, things are getting harder, but I'm starting to realize, I'm like, well, what am I doing differently? I can't do what I was doing in the past. I have to change things up to adapt to as my aging body. Even though I'm 35, people might have a laugh about that, but it is getting harder, guys. And like they're in the Ray White app, TRG is still connected to Ray White. There's a Pulse app. It tracks everyone's numbers. And for me, that actually gives me anxiety following on other people's numbers. I just know if I work as hard as I possibly can and try beat myself from last year, then I'm doing well.
How do you lead others to believe in themselves, especially on the days that they're struggling to see it?
I think it's about just focusing on the small wins. You know, like sometimes, you forget to look backwards. You forget to say, look, year one in real estate, have a huge amount of listings or sales, but you can go, I know how to learn a contract. You know what? I read a contract. I know how to write an agency agreement. There's a lot of little wins along the way that you didn't know how to do. So although that, you may not be where you wanted to be, I think if you look backwards, you can actually say, I'm coming a long way. And people want real estate to have that success overnight. It's not the case. Keep going through those harder times. You need to keep believing in yourself. You need to make sure that if you do the right thing for one person, the relationship is going to compound, and then you're going to keep building as you go along. I just think if you tell everyone they're just going to keep doing the work and keep believing in themselves, they will get there, and just to look backwards on the small wins and the successes today.
Looking back on your journey, what role has belief played in getting you to where you are today? And what advice would you give to somebody who's still trying to build that belief in themselves?
For me, it's lead by example. And people may see me where I am now, and I only feel like I'm just starting, which is the exciting part. But people haven't seen the 13 years it's taken me to get here, where I tell the story of me nearly quitting. I had to move 2 offices until I found the right person. Before I left my last office, I had a good catch up with one of my mentors, and he said to me, Ollie, if you can't make it with Gavin Rubenstein, you should probably get out of real estate. And that was the truth. I was with someone that was really powerful in the industry, that had the work ethic that I admired and that I wanted to be next to. Not only now we're great friends, but also a partnership, which is great. So it's about having the right mentors around you. So I'd say tell them my story in terms of, like, it hasn't always been easy. I don't think you can have a plan B. So you can't come into real estate and have a side hustle and think, I'm going to sell some tires on the internet. You really got to go all in. You can't go to a second job. That was probably a big one for me. And I've always come by, there's a couple of sayings that I love in real estate that I tell myself and I tell my team. The first is, and this is what Gavin tells me constantly, is if it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? So real estate agents, a lot of us are uneducated people. I didn't go to university. I finished year 12. My mum did all my homework, but we can earn a lot of money for uneducated people. Of course, the work is hard. The second part is, I always think it's success is what you do when nobody's watching. You can't be here doing a 9 to 5 job and being in the office calling when your boss wants you to call. There needs to be a hunger in you. There needs to be a fire in you that says, I'm going to make something of myself. I'm going to get this place in 5 years time. I'm going to be here in 10 years time. You've got to have a roadmap of what you want to achieve. And that needs to be so strong that you achieve it. My last saying is what I love is, you're in charge of your own success. If you believe in yourself, no one else is going to make it happen for you. You need to believe in yourself to make it happen.